Matt Hardy. Thank you for watching the Gimme A Hull Yeah Wrestling Podcast.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the Gimme A Hull Yeah Wrestling Podcast. I'm Ant. Today I'm joined by...
Also
just known as Dom. And we are also joined by our partners from across the seas. It's the Wrestle Story.
Hello, I'm Mr. Gleen.
And I'm Maven.
Maven and Mr. Gleen, or Mr. G, or Mini M. It's all good, whatever we want it to be. How are you two?
Doing good.
Great.
Wonderful.
Thanks for having us on.
No, thank you for coming on at such late notice as well. It is awesome. So today we are breaking down the news as we normally do. We've got loads to talk about. A few of the topics we're going to mention is coronavirus, our thoughts on Backlash, as well as AJ Styles being Intercontinental Champion, Vince McMahon taking control of NXT more, Mustafa Ali and what he's doing next, as well as Ricky Starks, Abaddon on AEW, and David Starr as well. We're going to talk a little bit about him, so that's a little preview of what is to come. So let's start off talking about coronavirus. It's been a very interesting week for WWE, folks.
Indeed.
Yes.
So
I will tell you, it's been an interesting week here in the United States with everything that's going on with the coronavirus.
It sounds like it is, and it sounds like Florida itself is in a little bit of a mess right now.
Definitely.
Is that what happens when you make things like wrestling essential?
Well, I think when you don't shut things down completely and you open up sooner than what you should, then that is when you start to have things like this happen.
It's one of the outcomes that can happen. So WWE had a positive test of coronavirus from one of they're saying it was a Performance Center recruit.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I've seen.
So obviously they've been using them during the tapings of Raw. They've been behind the glass. I wouldn't say socially distancing and not wearing masks. There was a report that come out saying that WWE has said that they're not allowed to wear masks. However, that's been conflicted as well recently and contradicted by several other sources. So what do you guys think of this? I mean, what's going on? They had to cancel tapings on Tuesday?
Yeah, the entire thing is just, from everything I've seen and everything that I've read, it's just been a mess. And it was said that the tapings were just all over the place, and it was just, like, lack of leadership and completely and utterly just, like, ridiculous on how everything has been handled. I think, like, getting the positive test is just... It was a matter of time before somebody tested positive. And this isn't the first one that they've had, because there was one other, wasn't there?
There was very early on, yeah.
That's what I thought. So, like, it's only a matter of time before things, like, really blow up in WWE's face. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it was just a matter of time before something happened, especially since we're starting to open up a lot more stuff here in the States. We didn't have it under control. We still don't have it under control. And I expect it just to get worse over time as far as having positive cases and things like that. Now, there's people that sit here and go, well, you won't die from it. But some of the effects it's having on younger people now that I've kind of read some stories on, like, lung issues and things like that. It's like, do some of these people want to, like, take a risk and put themselves out there and maybe risk ruining their career because we didn't take care of things like we should have?
Yeah, it's not good, is it? It's scarring on the lungs is what you're talking about with the young people, isn't it?
Yes, and in fact, there have been, I think I've seen, like, 2 stories here in the States where two different people in their 20s have had to have, like, lung transplants.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Because it was so bad.
That's terrible.
So I think that, even though it may not kill you, I don't think you want the extended, to have the extended, the rest of your life being miserable and not being able to do the things that you used to do because we didn't take care of things.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and you know, the other thing is it's not just about the people it's infecting; it's about continuing this virus spread, and that can spread onto their parents or their grandparents or what have you. That is, and that's, you know, it is bad. We need to put a stop to this virus as soon as possible. What do you think on this, Dom?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a power play. Obviously, with Vince, he doesn't really. I don't think he thinks about too much beyond himself or, you know, his immediate family. I think there's, you know, he's probably not thought about it properly for a long time, and thought about his whole philosophy of the show must go on.
Yeah,
and that's how this has happened.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was very surprised the show went on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing about the testing. So WWE have been doing temperature checks for these last few months. So they're testing people's temperature. There's been rumours that there's been some leeway with the temperature at times and stuff like that as well. However, AEW, sort of a competitive brand, have been doing blood tests. Now, they are fast blood tests, they're not a proper blood test, but they're much more reliable than just taking the temperature. What do we think about that? Like, they're not allowed to enter Daly's place without having a blood test, yet WWE are just sort of doing these temperature checks.
I think that taking more precaution is better than not doing anything at all, or doing the, like, for WWE, they're essentially doing the bare minimum of what they probably should be doing. And I think that throughout the entire thing, AEW has handled it like so much better. And, you know, Cody's come out and talked about the doctors saying, if we don't do this, 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 and this, we are not having a show. WWE's doctors are not doing that. They're not going to sit there and go, Vince, if we don't do this, 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 and this, we're not having a show. Because then Vince is going to be like, well, I don't care what you think.
You don't have a job anymore.
So I think AEW has handled it so much better than WWE has. You know, just the entire thing. And I think, like, you can't, it's just facts. They just have.
I agree that AEW has handled it better. I think one of the issues you have, though, is if you have no temperature, if you're asymptomatic and you still have this as you walk in, there's still a chance, if you're not wearing the mask and doing the other precautions that are necessary, there's still a chance that you're going to pass it on anyway.
Yeah.
So I think you need to take a look at that, put all the precautions together and use all of them, rather than just picking and choosing which ones you want to use, because all of them are, the whole design of all of them is to try and prevent the spread of it, rather than just going, well, we're going to take temperatures and, yep, you're good, go on in, you don't need to wear a mask. And so when you do that, you're kind of leaving out the other part of, if you're asymptomatic, you may have this, and now you're walking in, no mask, no nothing, and you have the potential to spread it to someone else.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Dom?
Like I say, I think it's all been handled atrociously. I think it's a very WWE thing to do, to ignore what everyone else is doing and power ahead with the wishes of Vince. He's very much a, if I can't control it, it's not happening kind of guy by the sounds of it. So because he can't control the coronavirus, I think he's kind of, I can't see it, it's not there kind of attitude, you know what I mean? So I think he's just powering ahead as normal for Fox and for people that are invested in the company, so that he can keep money coming in and really not taking care of his employees. But yeah, it's a typical, by the sounds of it through history, that's a typical Vince play. So yeah.
I'm gonna do something rare here and defend WWE a little bit. One thing I would say, which is mental, why would I defend that company? I don't, although it is WWE's responsibility to test the performance and make sure, it should also be instilled by government regulation as well. And WWE isn't regulated enough, I don't believe. And this is one example of that, on how if the government had stepped in and said, this is the minimum that you have to do, be that temperature checks, be that the blood tests that AEW were doing, then WWE wouldn't necessarily be at fault in this. But they've made the risk assessments and they've decided that the temperature check is enough to qualify whether they can perform or not.
Yeah. I would agree. And I could do a whole nother show on how our government's handled this, because we've just dropped the ball on all of this. Like they've left it up to each individual state to handle things, and when you can travel from state to state and place to place without, pretty easily. I mean, I could be in 2 other states in a matter of 45 minutes.
Right.
So it's not like, we've controlled any. I mean, if I'm infected and I go to these other states, I'm now running the risk of infecting people there. So this should have been a national type thing for here in the United States, rather than just each state handles it their own way, because every state's done it differently, and Florida has done nothing.
Well, that's partly Trump, isn't it? Because he's sort of giving it to the governors to be responsible for, as opposed to taking the responsibility himself.
Yes, and one of the things I've always said is if we got into a war with another country, and say they attack like Alaska, we wouldn't go, okay, Alaska, you're on your own. Good luck. I hope you figure it out.
No, yeah, well, that's right, yeah.
Our military would be involved in it.
It wouldn't be Alaska going to war with somewhere. It'd be America. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so this is kind of a similar situation. This was something that was going to affect every state. We knew it was going to affect every state, and we didn't do the things necessary to stop it.
Right. Well, it's wonderful having an American point of view on the podcast, and obviously in the UK, I don't think we've handled it particularly well either. We're in the same boat as you. What are your thoughts on this, Dom, about regulation and how that should be?
Obviously, I'm not a government official. Obviously, different people work in different ways. I think you're never going to regulate millions and millions and millions of people. I think it's just as much the fault of the communities and people. Obviously, the government are at fault primarily because they haven't regulated people properly. But if you've got the possibility and the opportunity to go out and interact with friends, family, whether you're a celebrity or a wrestler or a member of the public, then you're going to do it. So I think tighter regulations should have been there from the get-go. More like I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it. Just trying to avoid, there's other countries that have done it better than both of our countries, where they've gone into proper lockdown and then they've recovered. And there are many examples of that. I just think that America and the UK are both good examples of how not to do a lockdown. Because you can't regulate and control an entire society of people. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, other countries have done it, but you're right. But I just believe that whether it's the government or whether it's some sort of sports regulation, if this had happened in a bigger sport like basketball or American football or soccer or something like this would be real newsworthy headlines that had not looked after their performers properly.
Yep.
Well, I will tell you that, our college football season, students have started to report back to the campuses, college campuses, for starting to get ready for the season. They are testing people, and there's a lot of colleges that are having, 4, 5, 6 kids that are coming up positive, and so they are kind of regulated, or at least testing and doing the things necessary. But I don't know how you can prevent it from spreading if you're not taking the proper precautions, like wearing masks and things like that. And I know a lot of people would sit here and go, well, masks, they don't do anything. I can tell you from personal experience just in my house.
Don't sit there and tell me masks do nothing. I've been wearing masks for the last 2 years since I was diagnosed with Crohn's, and it's like an autoimmune disease, and you can get real sick if you get sick. So trust me, I have not gotten sick because I wear a mask every time I go out. It works. Don't tell me it doesn't. I'm a teacher, and I'm around kids that
snot on their hands and cough and everything else. And
I'm a podcaster, and I have the exact same with Dom.
And I've been sick, and I come home, and once I feel like I've got something coming on, she starts wearing a mask. And, it's worked. In 2 years, she used to probably get sick once a year prior to being diagnosed with Crohn's.
Pretty sick.
And in 2 years, she has not been sick, because anytime anybody in the house gets sick, she's got a mask on and is wearing it to try and help, keep herself safe. And so it's obviously
it works.
The mask must work, because I've got 2 years of experience. I didn't believe it. I was like, okay, masks are. And in 2 years, I've seen what it's done for her, so I know that they work.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting the public
To understand
they
that.
work.
Well, you know what I really don't understand? WWE Shop has their own masks on sale.
Exactly. Why would you not? That's like a perfect spot to promote them if you have your people in the crowd wearing them.
In the advertising.
Like, it's horrible ad. Like, they don't. Terrible. Like, they're ding dongs. They don't miss opportunity.
I'm gonna step away real quick.
To like put. I just don't get it. I don't understand it at all. Totally missed opportunity, and I don't understand it whatsoever.
And then WWE is saying, well, you know, they're kept away from the performers, and we've got the shielding around the stage and stuff. Anyone see Street Profits entrance on Monday Night at Raw?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like mind-boggling to me. Like, you can't sit there and tell me that you're doing the social distancing. You're doing all of this stuff with the crowd, and you got the plexiglass or whatever. And then you send the Street Profits out, which totally breaks everything you literally just like said you did. You just messed all that up because you just sent the Street Profits out there, and they're all like, "Yeah, high fives, folks."
Does anyone have a smoke?
Are you kidding me? Like, this company sometimes, man.
Anything else to say on coronavirus, anyone? Let's move on. Let's move on to Paul Heyman. This is a story that we probably should have covered last week, but we didn't. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts on it, Dom. Paul Heyman has been taken down as the lead on Raw, and that job has been given to Bruce Pritchard, who's been doing SmackDown for the past few months. What do you think of that, and why do you think that is? Dom.
First.
I'd like the Wrestle story to go first.
Okay.
Here's my thoughts. I've seen stories out there that, you know, people were like, Pritchard's a yes man and all this stuff. But then I saw the Revival, or FTR, did a interview, and they asked them about, you know, Pritchard being a yes man, and they were like, kind of like, well, Heyman is a yes man too. And so, you know, they kind of saw it as both of them are kind of yes men. They did say, you know, that I think they felt that Heyman was a little more creative in what he was doing. But they felt that, you know, it wasn't a whole lot of difference between Heyman and Pritchard as far as, you know, standing up to Vince.
The thing right there, the words that just came out of your mouth. Paul Heyman is more creative than Bruce Pritchard. Can we just take a look at SmackDown? Can we take a look at Raw and how both of them have been completely different? Outside of the Sonya Deville stuff and like the Bayley and Sasha stuff on SmackDown, sometimes, generally, that's been pretty decent. SmackDown has sucked. It's been trash. Like, it's not good what they've been doing on SmackDown as of late. And the thing with Raw, when, you know, Heyman has been in charge, is the stories have just been better, and it's been like more watchable, and you don't want to like turn the TV off midway through and like sit there in disbelief at the garbage that's being thrown on the television, because that's not what's happening on Raw. Sure, they have their moments when you're like, what are we doing and why are we doing this? But SmackDown is like that all the time, which makes it like the worst show they have on during the week.
Dom?
I don't know, man. I think Paul Heyman's going to be a great acquisition for Ring of Honor or AEW or NWA. I mean, Bruce Pritchard is more Vince's guy, has always been more Vince's guy. I can understand from a business decision why Vince trusts Bruce Pritchard over Paul Heyman. Apparently, they didn't even like each other that much, Paul Heyman and Vince. That's the news from sources, is that they never really actually saw eye to eye or got on in conversation.
Sources.
But yeah, I mean, I can understand from Vince's perspective why he would do that, because he trusts Bruce Pritchard implicitly. I think Paul Heyman won't be out of a job for too long. I'm not sure whether Cody will have him in AEW, but I imagine that NWA will pick him up.
I don't know if he's out of a job. He's just been taken off Booker. I assume he'd still be talent.
Yeah, they said that he's just
he's still
on-air talent now.
Yeah, he's still with Brock Lesnar, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just he's been taken down from that position. I disagree with you ever so slightly, Maven. I think that SmackDown's been better than Raw recently. And part of the reason for that is they've been trying to get all these new guys over in Raw. And a big problem with trying to get new guys over in this day and age is how can you tell if they're over or not? Is Angel Garza over?
He's about to be.
But how will you know? Because you ain't getting no crowd pops.
Well, Vince is super high on him, so we know that.
Yeah, but what I'm sort of saying is it's a very difficult time to gauge when someone's getting over, and when they're putting all these new talents in to get over, you are seeing an audience reaction.
I think they do it from the YouTube hits, don't they? They do it from the YouTube stuff. It's why Matt Hardy got another couple of goes before he left. Because they weren't expecting ratings spike on the YouTube stuff. So I think that's how they're doing it, is they're seeing after the shows what the video stuff feeds back.
But that's not the same as a crowd reaction, is it?
It isn't, but I think the one thing you get from, especially, it's a lot different now than probably, 15, 20 years ago, where if this happened 15 or 20 years ago, I think you'd sit there and go, well, I have no idea if this guy's getting over or not. But since you do have YouTube, you have Twitter, you have all this social media stuff, you can kind of gauge what people are thinking about each individual person with the technology that you have. And now, rather than 20 years ago, you would have never been able to know whether anybody was getting over or not. I do think the crowds will help tell the story on whether somebody's getting over. But I think right now, if you use the YouTube, you use Twitter, you use all these social media networks to determine, is this person really getting over or not? I think that they have an advantage in that way, where 20 years ago you didn't have that.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously, if you look at, you can tell from the YouTube stuff. For example, I'm just scrolling through. On NXT, the Undisputed Era's have proven, ratings draw. Obviously, a lot of the Undisputed Era content gets really high, and then obviously you've got the standard stuff, obviously the John Cena, Undertaker stuff that they're doing at the moment with the documentaries or commentary or whatever. But then you've got Drew McIntyre's a huge ratings draw for them at the moment. Otis, of course. I'm not sure about Bobby Lashley, and I don't know why Bobby Lashley's still being elevated, but he seems to have, R-Truth. R-Truth is a great one. That's another one.
Yeah, I mean,
Randy Orton. You were right. You were right about Randy Orton. Like in his new renaissance that he's in, Randy Orton's a massive ratings draw at the moment for them.
When Randy Orton is invested, he's great. When he's not, it's rubbish.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
People are watching it. People are watching Randy Orton now.
He's been great. It's been great, and we'll talk a bit more about Randy Orton in a second. But I just think it's a very difficult time, and I think Paul Heyman had a very difficult job with a 3-hour show, which is too long anyway. And I think that's maybe why I prefer SmackDown, because it's not 3 hours of sort of plodding through a treacle of wrestling,
No, and they've actually done a lot better now with pay-per-views too. They're shortening them down, so that's good.
Yes.
Right, let's move on from that into Vince McMahon's control issues. He's not happy with NXT's ratings. NXT's ratings have been dropping week by week. This was happening prior to the coronavirus outbreak and has obviously dropped a lot more since. Vince has apparently had a much more hands-on role during this week's tapings of NXT. Would you guys, because you Wrestle Story, I watched your review on it last night, would you say that there was more of a feel of Vince McMahon and sports entertainment there?
Yeah, I would say you kind of see his hands on stuff.
I mean that champion versus champion. I mean, It's actually clever. It's actually a clever idea, but it's definitely a Vince decision. I'm not sure whether that would have been booked. It might have been more of a slow burn thing if it was Vince. Vince is a pardon the phrase, I can't think of anything else. Vince is a blowing of. He wants to. I'm trying to think of a PC way to say it. He wants to blow his gasket, so to speak. He wants to. He likes to get things done quickly, get to angles quickly, rush things. in order to draw ratings, which is why they bought up all the NXT guys very quickly. I think it was last year when they bought Tommaso Ciampa and Balor. Oh, no, sorry, not Balor. Tommaso Ciampa,
Aleister Black, Ricochet.
And that was because he literally went and said, right, who are the biggest guys on SmackDown?
On NXT,
on NXT, because we need them. And I imagine the resulting Vince's resulting sort of blowing of his gasket this week is basically him going, right, okay, we need to put our two champions in a match together with two other very popular guys. Oh, and in the next few weeks, we'll probably see guys from Raw and SmackDown, which is, of course, why we saw Sasha Banks and Bayley there, I imagine, too.
And we're going to get more of that, I have no doubt. What do you guys think about that?
Well, as far as ratings go, I think that, especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks, with everything starting to open back up here, I think that, people are going out, so they may not necessarily be sitting around, at 7 o'clock watching, wrestling or anything else.
Yeah.
And so I think because people are going out, I think that's going to have an effect on it. I think you'd probably get a better feel in about a month or so, a month and a half, 2 months, on where ratings, whether the ratings are going to come back up some or not. But I think right now, with everybody having been locked up or at least shut down somewhat, and things not open, not that people were not doing stuff, it's just some of the stuff they wanted to do they couldn't do because everything was closed. So I think in about 2 months is where I think you have to really start to look at ratings and see where things are at as far as that goes.
Makes sense. Maven?
With NXT, just for me, I don't know what it is. I don't know what they started to do, but it was probably January when things just started to go downhill, so to speak, where they weren't entertaining like it was a couple months prior to that. And it's kind of just been this we're going down this slope and it's really, really slow and nothing's getting better. It's just bleh. I haven't loved what they've been doing on NXT over the last couple months. And it was before everything happened with, having to shut everything down and going to these empty arena, everything like that. There was just something that wasn't clicking the way it was before. And I don't know what it is. I still have no idea what it is that they need to fix, but they need to do something, because it's not as entertaining as it once was. And I'm not as into it as I once was.
I can see why. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I can see why. I think a big part of that is going from a 1 hour show to a 2 hour show, actually. And the 1 hour show, they filled it with so much storytelling. And now it feels like a 1 hour show that's being expanded with other stuff that's not necessarily as relevant. And, it's same with Raw, same with SmackDown. There's so much stuff in there that's just a bit garbage. Maybe. Anyway, let's move on. The Wrestle Story have done a full review on Backlash. So if you want to see their full thoughts on Backlash, go head over to their channel and check it out. We'll have a really quick review because we haven't done one. Dom, what do you think of Backlash, dude?
It was okay. I liked the main event. I liked I actually really liked Akira Tozawa's cameo with the ninjas, just for fun. It was good. I mean, it was fun. There were some good matches on there. I think, trying to think of a favourite performer. Have you got a favourite performer from the whole pay-per-view?
I thought Randy Orton did a great job. I thought the Randy Orton Edge match was phenomenal. Not the greatest match ever. It was never going to be. But
it was great.
I think it was hindered by that. Some people have said that it was not hindered by it because they went in with lower expectations, knowing that it wasn't going to be the greatest wrestling match ever. But for me, it was just a little. It was why couldn't they have just done this? Right? Just do that match. Don't have that stupid gimmick behind it, and we'd all be talking about it that was a great match. If that had happened at WrestleMania, that would have been one of the sort of top 20 WrestleMania matches. Seriously, it was a really good match that was ruined by really terrible booking. Also, I didn't like the crowd noise, man. The crowd noise.
Oh, yeah. Sounded like something out of a video game.
It it feels forced. And when WWE are doing that force upon you, this is where the crowd's going to cheer. This is the edits of it. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
I especially like the "This is awesome" chants when it wasn't lined up with the people that they were panning to in the crowd. I died. I died laughing.
You have like one person going, "This is awesome." The rest of the crowd are silent, and we've got an arena of "This is awesome." I mean, I appreciate them doing something different, but for me, that's sort of fake, and I can't suspend my disbelief enough in that. But yeah, I enjoyed the Streets Profits match. What do you guys think of the pay-per-view overall?
Overall, I thought it was good. I really enjoyed like the women's triple threat tag match that they had at the beginning of the show. I thought that was really good, and I think it showcased what the women's tag team division can do. And so I'd love to see more and more of that. The Bobby Lashley stuff, I thought that was great up until Lana came out and ruined the entire thing.
What a stupid ending, man.
Yeah, that was so.
Except, I will say that it was a terrible finish. But when Bobby Lashley came out the next night on Raw and was like, "Lana, I want a divorce," I got up and ran around the kitchen about 3 times, like screaming my head off. I was like, "Yes! Yes! Finally!" Like, this is the moment I've been waiting for like ever. Like, since the entire stupid Lana Lashley storyline started, because he knew this is where it was going. So yeah, that was like a really good match up until Lana came out, screwed everything up. And then the Edge and Orton stuff was good too. I thought it was a good match, greatest wrestling match ever. I don't know about that, but it was a good match. And I think I was probably one of those people that I had really low expectations going into it, and so it was like better than what I thought it was going to be because I had such low expectations. What about you?
I think overall, I thought this was the pay-per-view of the year.
Okay.
I just felt that, like, the whole Randy Orton and thing, I felt that was, like, because of the way they booked it, it made it worse for me. I mean, I thought it was a good match, but because of the way they booked it, it kind of turned it off for me. As you know, as far as sitting there watching it, I was like, okay, you're booking it this is the greatest match ever. It better be the greatest match ever, because if you're going to book it as this,
Yeah.
sure that it's the greatest match ever. And so I think that really killed because it goes back to, you know, writing storylines. If you're going to make the storyline, you better make sure that your storyline is going along with what's happening.
Yeah, it was massively overhyped, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why, and I can understand, you know, people that liked it, they went in with low expectations. But again, if you're going to book it as this, you better make sure that this is the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
That match from the very beginning, it was that match was never going to be the greatest wrestling match ever. It was a stupid tagline. But the thing that I said about it, I think I talked about this in the Backlash review, but where WWE was really smart using that was from like a marketing standpoint for like years to come, because if anybody goes on YouTube and types in greatest wrestling match ever, it's gonna be one of the first things that pops up, because it was like the tagline of the entire pay-per-view.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's gonna get seen by people when they put in greatest wrestling match ever. It's gonna be one of the first things that comes up. So I think that was like a brilliant idea on their part. And I don't say that very often, but it was kind of like brilliant for them to do that, because now if anybody goes and searches that, that's going to be one of the first things that pops up.
Yeah.
So Maven, what's the next Saudi show called, please?
I don't even know. What are we
Did
saying?
you say the greatest show ever?
The greatest show ever?
The greatest pay-per-view ever, yeah, is what the
greatest
next
pay-per-view
Saudi
ever?
show is going to be. Because then, to be honest, it's not a bad marketing decision by WWE.
No, I think it's very clever marketing and SEO stuff. Like, you know, I think it excuse me, it works from that level. I think it's a weird time, and they've really got to pull together on the marketing to get to not bums on seats, of course, but eyes on screens. And I think it was very clever marketing, whether we think it's the greatest wrestling match or not, for the ratings and for the hits and clicks, etc. I think it's proven that it works, and they're good at SEO marketing, WWE.
So let me ask you this: since we're sitting here saying it's good marketing, if people go watch it and they go, "What is this? Like, this is totally turning me off. I don't want to watch this," because, like, if they're labeling this as the greatest match ever, or the greatest show ever, or the greatest pay-per-view ever, and this was just a week show or week pay-per-view.
But the thing is about it,
don't you think the ratings?
They're just trying to get people to click on it to look at it to begin
Yeah.
with, and
Yeah.
so it gives them a view, gives them a whatever.
Well, I understand that.
So
but
it got somebody to click on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
If your idea is to get people to go on YouTube and check this out, or check it out somewhere else, and not worry about your SmackDown or your Raw or your NXT. I mean, if you're gonna put that out there that way, and then people get turned off by this, you're gonna naturally see numbers drop in Raw and SmackDown and NXT, because some people are gonna go, you labeled that as the greatest show ever or greatest match ever, and I was really disappointed in it. So the rest of your product is probably that same way, so I'm gonna not even watch it because it's not worth it.
I think what I'd say about that is, although we all know that it wasn't the greatest match ever, I could name 100 matches that were better, but it was a really great match. And actually, as a non-wrestling fan going into this, if you was to watch this and go, well, that's what I'm being told is the greatest match ever, you could quite easily believe that, I think. And it wasn't a bad match for that either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one other thing that I thought was cool about the Edge Norton match, I like the Howard Finkel.
MSG.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
cool. I thought that was like a cool thing to do.
It was a really
Boy
nice
match.
moment. Undertaker was also a massive fan of the match, saying that this is what wrestling needs to be, and I agree with him completely. Like, I think there maybe is too many flips and stuff like that as opposed to storytelling in ring these days in wrestling. However, you've got to give people time to that, and you've got to give them the leeway to be able to do that. Edge and Orton were pulling out moves from The Rock, from all sorts of Triple H pedigree. They really had free reign to make this as good as possible. And if you're not giving your other performers the ability to do that, then you're sort of limiting them in that anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think one of the issues you have is when you're doing things live. I feel that the bookers, anybody that's booking the show live right now in today's, for whatever reason, with today's storylines, I think they feel they need to run through like 100 things in a show rather than slowly go through things and book something the proper way. Watching old shows and watching old wrestling, it wasn't try and hurry and get through 47 different things in one show. You may only see 4 or 5 things happen in a show, and that was good because they were developing things. Where now I feel sometimes they try and force things on, and then they push it so quick that the storytelling gets lost in all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Let's move on from Backlash then, back onto Raw. Mustafa Ali.
Yep.
What?
He's gone to Raw.
Well, he's not the hacker then, is he?
I guess
What
not.
hacker? Sorry, what hacker?
That is a good. That's probably more of that's a better question than I guess Mustafa Ali's not the hacker. The question would be what hacker? Yeah, because they've completely dropped that off the face of the earth. That was. I don't get it, because it was a brilliant idea.
It was clever. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Everyone was. It's one of them
understand
speculation things. It's really clever that they can play with in several different ways, and it just seems to have been dropped off TV.
And they just ruined it.
Well, it goes back to, looking at your social media and seeing what people are talking
The hacker had his own Twitter account.
Does he still have his own Twitter account? Is it still there?
I think so.
When, because with our show, that was one of the first things people, when they came into our show, that's one of the first things people are, who's the hacker? Who do you think it is? Where are they going to go with this angle? And so when you take that away, you've taken away a storyline that people are talking about and people want to see. People want to find out who the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Maven and Mr. G have frozen.
Until we get them back. Yeah, I mean, do you think it's dropped, dude?
Yeah, I haven't been on for weeks, man.
I'm just
Hacker
looking.
is.
Sorry, you just cut out there,
Oh,
Mr. G. You're back.
Yeah, you're back. There apparently is some articles about the current status of the hacker storyline, which I'm currently researching. So talk amongst yourselves. But yeah, I'm quite surprised and sad that it's gone.
Do you think it's gone? Do you think it's still there? I mean,
I'd like to I'd like to think it is. I think it was a very clever, very, very clever storyline.
But it's been gone for ages is a problem. And actually, so even whether that hacker thing exists or not, let's go back onto the original story of Mustafa Ali. He's gone to Raw, and that was just announced by WWE. It wasn't given as some sort of story. It wasn't given as some sort of SmackDown has got AJ Styles, we're getting Mustafa Ali as a trade or anything. It was just, here you go. Here's a bit of story that we're releasing online as opposed to telling you story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, go on.
Talking about the hacker again, real quick. The Twitter. The last tweet that was put up from the hacker was May 28th.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that was months ago.
The hacker. So apparently, I've just been looking it up. Apparently, the storyline is still there. It's still going, but they're just trying to be coy about the subject. They're trying to keep it mysterious, but apparently it is still in existence. But whether it's Mustafa Ali now, which I genuinely thought it was, is
Well, who knows? It might show up in Raw. It might just be dropped. They might do something
I hope
stupid
so.
with it.
I hope so, because Mustafa Ali could do with that gimmick.
It'd be perfect for that gimmick, absolutely.
See, but the thing is about it, though, if they were going to do the hacker on both or on SmackDown, and people already had speculation that it was Mustafa Ali, why would you tell us that Mustafa Ali is being moved to Raw then?
Maybe to throw us off, to work us, maybe.
I mean, maybe, but Mustafa, everybody has said they think it's Mustafa Ali because of the light thing and everything. It's really obvious that it would be him. So I hope it's not him if the hacker still thing, because like I said, it's real obvious.
Well, the thing is, if it is him, they can now carry it over to Raw, and he could say, "I'm watching all of WWE. I know what's happening everywhere, and I see everything that everybody is doing." So they could make this like a cross-brand type.
I think that's a good idea.
I think for me the issue is that if you are telling us this is a story, and we know that WWE have dropped so many stories that have been decent in the past and never had a conclusion to them multiple times in history, this just feels like they're not showing it. They could at least do, before it goes on to an ad break, some sort of breakdown of the screen to let us know that that's still a thing, and they're not. And that's why I say it's been dropped, because whether it has been dropped or it hasn't been dropped, it's not been mentioned for 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time there was a little video from the hacker was at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, and it was really sort of driving forward that tag team division story, and then just gone, unfortunately. Let's move on now to AEW. We got two big debuts on AEW this week. Let's talk about the first one, a former NWA champion, Ricky Starks, who is now signed to AEW. Not just was it an open challenge to Cody Rhodes' TNT Championship. Brilliant match by the pair of them as well.
Yeah, really big fan.
I think this is a big get for AEW.
I agree.
I've watched him in NWA, and I thought I was impressed with what he did there. I was even more impressed yesterday with his not just his in-ring ability, but his promo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a very good promo. Yeah.
So I think this is a huge get for AEW.
Yesterday was the first time that I had seen anything from him. I've heard the name before. I knew who he was, but I'd never watched any of his matches. I've never seen him cut a promo. And I was impressed too. I thought it was, I think he's one that is going to be running for those championships and stuff. He's going to be one of their, bigger top stars.
I think an exciting new talent. I think him, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin. Show me. Let's see him.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's exciting. That's great, and it's another person on the roster that just mixes things up a bit, and I'm grateful for that.
Yep.
Let's talk about Abaddon. Abaddon.
So
it's like abandon, but not spelt right.
I know. That's why I was like, am I saying her name right? Like, the entire time we were talking about it, like, last night on our stuff, I was like, am I saying her name right? Because I feel like I'm not.
As a dyslexic person, I look at that name and I'm like, that's supposed to be abandoned, but it's spelled
Tell
wrong.
me about it. I feel like I'm not saying it right. I'm like, am I messing something up here? Because it doesn't look right. Like,
I wrote a tweet about it last night, and I was like, I need to make sure that I find her as opposed to try to spell this like 7 times, even though it's 6 letters.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. It's every company needs a blood curdling zombie character. You know, TNA has Rosemary. WWE had the Boogeyman. You know, but I think.
Well, they've got Bray Wyatt now. That's demonic.
They've got Bray, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They've got Bray Wyatt now, and AEW was kind of missing one, except for that ridiculous guy with the question marks on his knee pads. He had the eye on his head.
Oh, Luther.
Luther, yeah. There's only room for in fact, this actually goes back to my whole thing. Actually, no, this is as much as I'm a huge fan of zombies and goths and everything in wrestling. AEW has like an abundance of that. Like, in fact, if I'm gonna go deep into anything on this week on the news, it's the fact that I think AEW has too much reliance on creepy, weird characters. You know, I mean, the women's division needs one, so that's great. But like, you know, they've got Jimmy Havoc now, they got Darby Allin, they got Abaddon, they got Luther. Who else is there? Somebody else too.
You see, we've talked about this before, but I disagree with you because the 3 that you've just named there, who are on the main roster, Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, and thingy, I don't think are weird. I mean,
Luther.
Jimmy Havoc's, Luther, but he's not on the main roster.
They're dark and they've got dark music and they.
Yeah, but then what are you going to have a load of chavs or a load of? It's just a gimmick. I don't see the goth thing as a gimmick. This is that zombie character.
It is a gimmick. Like, it is a gimmick.
Yeah?
Like, yeah,
so is Paige a gimmick?
No, well, Paige isn't a goth. Paige is a...
What is Paige? What is Paige gimmick then?
Paige is a millennial.
A millennial. That's a gimmick.
You know what I think?
The thing about this is you know, using the whole the whole goth thing. Each of them have their own personality. So I think that as long as you don't like throw them all out there together or all on one show or something like that, I think because you use them properly and you showcase their talents at different times and things like that, because they all have their different personality, all have their little quirks. Someone will be drawn into each one of them in a different way, and so
yeah.
I don't know that it's a bad thing to have, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 people that are that way.
Too many creeps in the.
There's never enough creeps.
I think what Dom is saying is that the next character that debuts needs to come out. Their screen needs to be like Rainbow Candyland, and they need to be throwing out lollipops to people.
Exactly.
That's what I think.
Are you missing the New Day?
I think what Dom is trying to say. That they need to be, throwing out lollipops. I mean, pancakes. I mean, everything. Just like sunshine and rainbows. That's what he wants. I think that's pretty much what he's saying.
Well, they had Kylie Ray, but obviously she's back in Impact now. But Dom, what you were saying actually, because you was talking before, I can't remember if it was on Twitter actually, about how great Impact's women's division is, and obviously they've got wonderful dark characters like Rosemary and Su Yung, and this is maybe a part of that, and I think that's a really interesting dynamic to the women's division, which I can't wait to see where they go with, and that's someone that you can mix stuff up with a little bit, because I'm not excited for Hikaru Shida versus Penelope Ford at Fyter Fest. That seems really boring to me. Yeah,
I mean, we'll see, won't we? I mean, I'm a big fan. I've watched a couple of Abaddon matches. Abaddon. Abaddon.
Obey Dom. Just obey Dom. B-Day Dom. B-Day Dom.
But I mean, she pulls off the zombie thing better than anyone else I've seen do it. Better than Su Yung, actually.
Really? Right.
Yeah, I think she's probably the best to do it. But
it's really creepy. It is like Marilyn Manson's being stuck in a blender.
I wouldn't want to cross her on a dark night. Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan.
Cool. You guys?
Character's awesome. I love it.
Cool, isn't it?
Little sister was sitting at the table when we were watching that, and we're sitting there, and she goes, "This girl coming out, she's a little weird." And I go, "No kidding, no kidding." Yeah, it was cool. I thought the entrance was cool. I loved the whole, like kind of like crawling on the floor, like
Very Finn Balor, actually.
Like it was.
Character work.
But it was cool. And I think that she has like a bright future.
I want to see her come like crawl out of a TV screen. Like,
I would
Oh my
scared.
goodness.
Bless you.
Thank
I would be so scared if that happened. It could definitely creep me out.
I've got 3 more quick stories. Do you need to get off, Dom, or are you happy to stay?
I've got another 15 minutes. We're okay. I can make it work.
Groovy. So quickly, Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy is happening next week. What an exciting match that is. What version of Matt Hardy do you want to see Sammy Guevara face?
V1.
You want V1? Cool.
V1. Yeah, V1.
Maven and Mr. G, what version?
I don't even know because any of them would be good.
all of them.
Yeah.
Can you fight all of them though?
Is it a cinematic match?
No, I don't think so. But it's hey guys, give us a series of 7 with these 2, right? And each one, Matt Hardy is a different character. I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I'm personally hoping for Damascus. I want to see a little bit more of that character, and but I just wanted to hear what you guys thought, really.
I think a lot of it will depend on where they're going to go with the storyline and how they're going to progress the storyline. If they're looking to end it, you might get Damascus.
Yeah.
But if they're looking to continue the storyline, you may get one of the other characters. I don't know.
Yeah. I think what they'll do is multiple things, but it was just interesting because Sammy Guevara tweeted out today that he hopes to be facing old school Matt Hardy out of the gimmicks of Matt Hardy. How fun is that, though?
Yeah,
it's Matt
cool.
Hardy is such a cool character for AEW though because he has all of that, like everything that he's ever done. He can just run with any one of those characters, and it's such a cool thing that he can be broken Matt Hardy one week and come back and be, the old school Matt Hardy, and then, Matt Hardy version 1 and all this different stuff that he's not, it's not the same every time. So you're never going to get tired of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think while I respect him changing characters and in terms of as a performance, that's really interesting to watch. I sort of do want him to come out as a character and stay as that character all the way through and start really defining them characters and how they are in the ring a little bit more.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
A little bit. Anyway, let's move on to some really rubbish news with David Starr and his sexual abuse allegations. He's been accused by several women of abusing them in the past. And several of the promotions that he's part of, including Revolution Pro, TNT, Extreme Wrestling, OTT, have vacated his titles at them brands.
Yeah, he's meant to be one of the best in the world, isn't he? In terms of his wrestling, in terms of his an indie reputation. So that's a real shame and a real damage for his career.
The one thing that I respect about... Sorry, go on, Mr. G.
Here's the issue I have with it. I mean, if he did it, yeah, something needs to be done. But they shouldn't base it off just the allegations because... I did check his Twitter and stuff like that, and just to see what he was saying, and like he flat out denies, the sexual allegations. He said he's been a terrible person in relationships and stuff like that, and he needs to get better and be a better person than that as far as that goes. But he flat out denied, the sexual abuse allegations. So I think that because we're in a society now where we immediately say you're guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everybody throws, the book and everything at people when things like this come up. I think we need to take a step back and get all the evidence before we just go, okay, you are guilty. And so we're going to take everything away from you because we feel you're guilty.
Well, we've sort of changed in the world from innocent until proven guilty to guilty until proven innocent. And
yeah,
there's certain examples where that's good to set examples where that's bad, and it's a very difficult thing. I'm sure that everyone involved in this is feeling it's difficult. One of the things I respect about him is acknowledging that he hasn't been the best in relationships in the past, yet at the same time denying the sexual allegations and apologising from what I've seen on Victoria's Twitter, apologising for the for the way that that's happened, and that he didn't believe that was what was happening at the time. So really difficult situation there, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where I think, we need to take a step back and wait and see what comes with this, rather than just like throwing everything at him and going, okay, you are guilty because someone came out and said you were guilty.
Yeah. You got any sources, Maven?
No.
No, nothing. No comment. Rock and roll. Quickly, last news story. A little spoiler for this week's SmackDown. So if you're not interested in hearing spoilers for tonight's show, click off the video. But come and join us on Saturday for our watch along, which I'll mention more in a bit. Bray Wyatt, Firefly Funhouse, is coming back on Friday.
I'm a little shocked by this, I guess. Just because, I don't know. I thought because he just had a baby, I figured he was, doing what Roman, was doing, and he was going to take some time off and just hang out at home. So not to, take any risks or anything. But, I mean, cool. Firefly Funhouse is back. Sweet. I think this is probably a segment that, if he had what he needed at home, he could probably, film it there, and it'd be no problem.
Right, yep.
Because it's not like he's at the show, technically when they do the Funhouse segments, he's on the screen.
Doesn't have to be, yeah. He could make something up in his garage, yeah.
So, if they're gonna do something like that, then I think that could be kind of cool. But I mean, regardless, Bray Wyatt is epic and awesome and cool, and it'll be nice to see him back.
I'm just curious to see where they go with it.
Yeah, that's another thing. I don't know. I don't quite know what they're gonna do with him. If they're gonna try and continue the Braun stuff, or if he's just gonna pull something out of the hat and go after somebody else. Because I really don't know what's next. I
think it's a Braun thing. I think it has to be. I think I think it's the most logical thing to do.
So that's all your predictions, Braun?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it would be cool if they could do something else with him, but I think Vince obviously is going to, because Bray is a proven, as we know, merchandise seller and ratings draw. I think he's going to put him with Strowman immediately. I think it'd be great to see. Sorry, I keep piping up. It'd be great to see Wyatt go after somebody else. But
I think the best place to put him right now is against Orton. Orton has all the heat in the world. Right,
he's not going to do it. How's he going to do it? How are they going to do that? It's a great idea, dude.
You have Bray Wyatt say that Orton cheated in that match against Edge, because Edge is out for a while, and you want to save the third Edge Orton. You don't want to do that at SummerSlam. You want to wait for fans.
Christian's getting a match, whether we like it or not, whether he likes it or not.
Who is?
Vince wants Christian back for one more match.
Yeah, and you can do that at any time, but he can still be injured for now because he was.
Really
hurt.
He's massively. Yeah, he's massively. He shouldn't be doing it, but obviously it's in terms of the YouTube stuff. That was a huge thing from this last week. So.
It could be great. I mean, that you're right. That would be an awesome SummerSlam match for Christian, but it also feels like he was injured beyond the point of SummerSlam for now, Christian. And you bring him back and do something else.
At the end of the pay-per-view, you called me and you were like, "Wouldn't it be great if Bray Wyatt came out now?" And it was, when Orton was celebrating, and I was like, "Yeah, it would. It'd be amazing." But Vince won't do that. I don't think he'll do that. I think he wants top ratings draws at the top of his company, and Wyatt is.
Yeah, but Wyatt and Orton's a bigger match than Wyatt Strowman.
Yeah. I think that would be a...
Who's the face in that?
You put Wyatt as a face, you accept that he's finally the face, because he is the face, really.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be a fun story.
I think you could very easily tie Orton into this. Even if you don't have them do face-to-face, you could have Wyatt say, "Hey, I've been pulling your strings, I've been controlling you," because with Orton, you notice over the last... with the Edge thing, with the Christian thing now, he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this. You made me do this. So they could very easily have Wyatt come in and go, hey, I've been controlling you, the whole hurt heel thing, and make it a storyline.
Yeah.
What you really want, Dom, is you really want the title back on Bray, don't you?
No, I don't. But
I'm not complaining about it, but I think that's what. Is that not what you want? So you want him to lose to Braun?
It's what I used to want. Yeah. And if he does go against Braun, he's taking the title because Vince won't have it any other way.
Well, he didn't last time, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Because Vince will want Bray at the top of the company if they put him with the Braun Strowman in the Braun Strowman feud. However, I would prefer, given our many conversations about this, from a longevity standpoint, if he went against Orton, that'd be amazing, guys. What if we just fantasy book the next 2 or 3 months of programming for Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt here? That'd be wonderful. But it's not going to happen because Christian, as long as Christian can breathe, Vince will want him at SummerSlam. It doesn't matter about his neck or his back or the copious injuries. He will want that name recognition on SummerSlam, and it makes sense because of the continuation of the Edge storyline. So of course you put Bray with Strowman.
Okay, cool. Which
is whether we like it or not. It's not like again. If I was booking it, I would book Orton Bray, and I would book. That's what like you guys probably. But that's after discussion. That's after we discussed it, and I was kind of turned on to that idea. But that's not happening. That's not happening.
Cool. You guys?
I agree. I think it's probably gonna be Braun.
I just don't love that because I know what the title.
I think the thing is, I think you don't necessarily have to have Orton.
Sorry,
what now.
Was that? What was that, Maven? I just got the zzz.
I just don't want the title put back on Bray because I think it's a bad move because then you have to have him lose the title to somebody, and that's going to be another loss. I don't want another Goldberg situation. That was utter garbage, and I do not want to sit there and watch that.
It was the worst.
I don't want to be put through that again. So don't put the title on him. Just don't do it. He doesn't need the title. He's a character that doesn't need the title. It's been made very clear. They have screwed him up. They've screwed him over a couple times. The Seth Rollins thing at Hell in a Cell was rough. Didn't like that because it was rough. Then he won the title off of Seth, and I was like, this is a bad idea. After that, he had to lose the title to Goldberg. More garbage. Garbage. No. The answer is no. That was a bad idea. That was just a bad idea. It didn't ever need to happen, but it did, and it was terrible. And I never want to watch it again. And so don't put the title back on the Fiend.
Rematch of Goldberg versus the Fiend on the greatest wrestling pay-per-view ever?
Wouldn't put it past him. Have the Fiend go over this time. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, we could be wrong because right now 2 of the greatest rating draws in the company are R-Truth and Bray Wyatt. So, if we're going by pure ratings draws, that'll be the next feud that Vince goes for. So it's unlikely that we get something like that. So I
really want to see Strowman and Big E. I think that's a perfect way to put the title on Big E.
I would love it.
If you want a good comedy, R-Truth with Bray Wyatt would just be nuts because R-Truth would make it so funny, and I think that he would because there's the fear factor of the Fiend, and R-Truth would just make it hilarious, I think.
I mean, when, obviously it's kind of funny to talk about, but that's only because we don't put R-Truth on that level of the card. But it would be a funny feud.
Honestly, I really want to see them build Bray back up again so that he can have his first big next loss be with Otis. I think that's a wonderful way to put Otis over as the honest, good person that Otis is the one person that was able to defeat the monster that is the Fiend. I think that would be a great story.
You mean aside from Goldberg?
Yeah. I was just going to... But wait, he already had his big loss and now it's to Goldberg. Are we just gonna erase that from history? I wish we could. I wish we could just erase that from history and pretend that never happened.
I mean, he didn't just win. It's not like he won with a spear or a jackhammer. He won with a suplex. So
here's the thing with the Fiend. I think the Fiend can lose, and I've said this for a long time. The Fiend can lose because his whole gimmick is not necessarily winning or losing.
It's about changing the person he's in the ring with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, you could have him lose and pop right back up right away. And I don't feel that there's anything hurt from that.
Okay, but they did that with Goldberg, and it was still garbage.
But the whole Goldberg thing
was garbage.
But
you can't tell me it was good because it wasn't.
But they could have done it better.
Oh, dang! We could have done that better. Goldberg, old dude fighting, the Fiend. Yeah, dude, that could have been like a blockbuster, like WrestleMania main event type of a match, dude. We totally, holy moly!
Again, it goes back to the storytelling and building Bray Wyatt.
It was never gonna be good because it was Goldberg.
No, it's not.
It was as good as Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre and Goldberg and Braun, which were just both.
The thing with Bray Wyatt, though, is I think that you could put anybody in the ring with him, and you could tell a story and make it somewhat interesting. Like they could have done something with Goldberg, that Goldberg questioned things about his career or something like that.
But the thing about it though was the way they built it.
That's where the problem was.
The way they built it was Goldberg was like, "I'm coming for you. You're next. I'm not afraid of you." That was the entire thing.
It's a bit tired of that. It's been done before that, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I say, it was terrible. Hopefully we'll never have to go back to it, although I imagine a Saudi Arabia rematch is on the cards. I'm actually deadly serious.
I know, that's why I'm laughing. Great, well that's the end of the news this week, unless anyone has any other news they want to talk about. Groovy. So that's it for this week. Announcement: we are filming an ECW pay-per-view watch along on Saturday. It's going to be over on the Wrestle Stories YouTube. There is going to be a poll on Twitter by the time this video releases, which is going to be on the Wrestle Story. We will also retweet it out, and it is going to have 4 choices for you to pick what pay-per-view you want us to watch. Are you going to be kind to us and make us watch a great pay-per-view, or are you going to make us watch some junk? So we can't wait to do that with you guys. Thank you so much for coming onto our channel and doing this with us, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Anytime. Groovy. Dom, take us out, man.
Thank you very much for watching the Gimme A Hull Yeah Wrestling podcast. And what do we say now? Gimme A Hull Yeah. There you go. Right, okay, I'll do that again. Right, okay, we're all going to say Gimme A Hull Yeah after 5 because I just messed up the outro. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gimme A Hull
Yeah!
Yeah!
Peace out, guys.
This is Broken Matt Hardy. Thank you for watching the Gimme A Hull Yeah Wrestling Podcast.